The neon lights flickered in a rhythmic dance, casting sharp shadows across the polished surfaces of the high-stakes casino. The air was thick with tension, a palpable energy that vibrated through the crowd gathered around the poker table. Players leaned forward, eyes narrowed, each face a mask of concentration and trepidation. It was a place where fortunes could change in an instant, and the stakes were as high as the chandeliers that hung from the ceiling like glistening jewels. In the center of it all sat Kazuki Sato, the notorious Yakuza boss, his presence commanding the room. He was a man of striking features, his sharp jawline and deep-set eyes betraying nothing of the ruthless nature that lay beneath his polished exterior. Dressed in a tailored suit that accentuated his athletic build, he exuded an aura of danger that drew people in and kept them at arm's length all at once. The chips stacked in front of him glimmered like his reputation, imposing and intimidating. As the dealer shuffled the cards, a hush fell over the crowd. It was a tense moment. Each player was acutely aware of the stakes, both monetary and personal. Kazuki was known for his uncanny ability to read people, his poker face a testament to years of navigating the treacherous waters of the underworld. But tonight, there was something different in the air, a sense of anticipation that crackled with electricity. Just as the cards were dealt, a figure pushed through the crowd, drawing the eyes of everyone in the vicinity. Her name was Amara, a skilled poker player with a reputation of her own. She was striking, with dark skin that glowed under the casino's lights and a confidence that turned heads. Clad in a sleek, form-fitting dress that highlighted her curves, she moved with a grace that belied the fierce determination that lay within her. Amara was not just any player. She had fought her way up in a world dominated by men, her intelligence and skill carving out a niche that few could rival. As she took her seat at the table, her gaze locked onto Kazuki's. The moment felt charged, as if the very air around them had thickened with unspoken possibilities. Amara felt a shiver run down her spine, not out of fear, but from a sense of intrigue. Kazuki's reputation preceded him, but she was not one to back down from a challenge. She had come to win, not just for the thrill of the game, but for the respect that came with it. The dealer announced the start of the game, and the tension in the room surged. Cards were flipped, bets were placed, and the stakes climbed higher with each round. Amara found herself immersed in the rhythm of the game, her focus unyielding. She played her hand with a calculated precision, not allowing the presence of the Yakuza boss to intimidate her. With each round, she could feel the eyes of the other players on her, but it was Kazuki's gaze that burned the most, intense, probing, as if he were trying to decipher the secrets hidden within her. As the game unfolded, Amara navigated through the rounds with a mix of strategy and instinct. There was an undeniable chemistry between her and Kazuki, an electric tension that simmered just beneath the surface. She could sense his interest, not just in her skills as a player, but also in the woman behind the cards. It was a dangerous game they were playing, and she was acutely aware of the implications that came with it. The final hand approached, and the atmosphere grew thick with anticipation. Amara's heart raced as she studied her cards, weighing her options. Kazuki's expression remained inscrutable, but she could see the glimmer of excitement in his eyes. This was more than just a game for him. It was a means of asserting dominance, a test of power that extended beyond the poker table. With each player folding, the stakes rose higher. The pot had grown massive, and Amara felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She glanced at Kazuki, who was watching her intently, a slight smirk playing on his lips. It was a reminder of the risks involved, not just to her finances, but to her very freedom. She had heard the whispers about him, the tales that painted him as a man who always got what he wanted. In a moment of clarity, Amara made her decision. She pushed all her chips forward, her heart pounding in her chest as she declared, "All in." The room fell silent, the players stunned by her audacity. Kazuki's eyes narrowed, a flicker of admiration crossing his features. He leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled as he considered her move. "Bold choice," he said, his voice low and smooth, sending a shiver of exhilaration through her. "But do you understand what you're risking?" Amara met his gaze, unwavering. "I understand all too well, but I'm not afraid to take risks." Kazuki chuckled softly, a sound that reverberated through the tension-laden air. "You might be underestimating what's at stake here, girl." Before she could respond, he matched her bet, his chips clattering onto the pile with a finality that sent a wave of excitement through the crowd. Amara's pulse quickened as the dealer revealed the community cards, and the tension escalated with each flip. The stakes felt impossibly high, the outcome teetering on the edge of fate. When the final card was laid down, Amara felt a rush of triumph as she unveiled her hand, a winning combination that sent shockwaves through the table. Gasps filled the air, and disbelief washed over the other players. But it was Kazuki's expression that intrigued her the most. He looked at her not just as a defeated opponent, but as a puzzle he was eager to solve. "Congratulations," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil beneath. "You've won." The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. As the reality of her victory settled in, Kazuki leaned forward, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "But you know what that means, don't you? You are my prize now, girl." Amara's heart sank as the weight of his words crashed over her like a tidal wave. This was not the victory she had envisioned. The thrill of winning was quickly overshadowed by the realization of what it meant to be entangled with someone like Kazuki. The other players began to disperse, their whispers fading into the background as she locked eyes with him. "What do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice steady despite the rising tide of anxiety within her. Kazuki smiled, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "You'll find out soon enough. Welcome to my world." As he stood, the crowd parted for him, and Amara felt a mix of fear and curiosity. She had won a game, yes, but what she had truly won was an entry into an unknown realm, one ruled by power, danger, and desire. The thrill of victory was quickly replaced by the realization that her life would never be the same again. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. With Kazuki's words echoing in her mind, Amara felt the ground shift beneath her. She had not only captured the attention of the Yakuza boss, she had caught the eye of a man who lived in the shadows, where danger lurked at every corner. As she gathered her things, her heart raced with a mix of apprehension and exhilaration. What awaited her in this new world? Would she be able to navigate the complexities of Kazuki's life without losing herself in the process? The night ended, but Amara's mind buzzed with questions. She stepped out into the cool night air, the city's lights shimmering like stars above her. The thrill of the game lingered, but the reality of her situation weighed heavily on her shoulders. She was not just a player anymore. She was a pawn in a game far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. As she walked away from the casino, Amara felt a sense of determination rise within her. She would not be a victim. She would face whatever challenges lay ahead with strength and resilience. Kazuki Sato had won her in a game of poker, but she would not let him dictate her fate. The stakes were high, and the game had only just begun. Amara stepped out of the casino, the heavy door closing behind her with a satisfying thud, as if sealing away the world she had just entered. A world filled with high-stakes games, danger lurking in every shadow, and a man who had captivated her from the moment their eyes met. The cool night air hit her like a splash of cold water, forcing her to confront the gravity of her situation. She took a deep breath, inhaling the city's intoxicating mix of smoke and ambition. The neon lights flickered above her, illuminating the path ahead, but they also cast long shadows that whispered warnings about the choices she had just made. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Her heart raced as she replayed the night in her mind. The poker table, the tension, and Kazuki's piercing gaze bore into her thoughts. The moment he won her as a prize seemed surreal, like a scene from a film where the stakes were impossibly high. She felt a strange mixture of fear and thrill coursing through her veins. The reality of being a pawn in Kazuki's dangerous game was daunting, but there was something about him that intrigued her. His commanding presence, the way he exuded power even in silence, made her heart flutter against her will. As she walked toward her car, Amara tried to push the thoughts of Kazuki to the back of her mind. She had always been fiercely independent, a fighter in her own right. She had built her life around strength and resilience, refusing to be defined by her circumstances. Yet, the allure of the Yakuza boss was undeniable. She could still feel the heat of his gaze lingering on her skin, a reminder that she was in a world where power dynamics shifted like the sands of the desert. Amara arrived at her car, a modest vehicle that stood in stark contrast to the luxury she'd just witnessed inside the casino. She slid into the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel tightly as she contemplated her next move. Should she walk away from this dangerous entanglement? Or was there a way to navigate the chaos of Kazuki's world without losing herself in the process? The engine roared to life, and as she pulled out of the parking lot, Amara's mind drifted back to the moments before the game had ended. The tension in the air had been almost tangible, each player at the table a predator, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And then there was Kazuki, sitting across from her, his eyes hidden beneath the curtain of dark hair, his expression unreadable. The first time she had seen him, he had exuded an aura of danger, but it was the flicker of something more, something raw and vulnerable, that had caught her attention. He had been focused, calculating, yet there was an intensity in his demeanor that spoke of deeper emotions beneath the surface. It was as if he wore a mask, one carefully crafted to protect him from the world around him. But in that moment, when he had won her, she had glimpsed a crack in that facade, a fleeting moment where the ice had melted just enough for her to see the fire within. As she navigated the city streets, Amara's thoughts were interrupted by a buzzing sensation in her pocket. She pulled out her phone, glancing at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number, but the content sent a chill down her spine. "You're in deeper than you think. Stay close to Kazuki." Her breath hitched in her throat, and she glanced around, half expecting a shadowy figure to emerge from the darkness. It was a warning, she realized, a reminder that her life had just become intertwined with the Yakuza, and the consequences of her choices could be dire. Despite the fear gnawing at her, she felt a surge of defiance. She wouldn't allow herself to be intimidated. Amara had fought too hard to carve out her own path, and she refused to be a victim now. Kazuki had won her in a game, but that didn't mean she had to surrender her agency. The stakes were high, but she was determined to play her cards right. The next morning, Amara found herself staring at her reflection in the mirror, assessing the woman staring back at her. She looked strong, fierce, but there was a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. The reality of her situation was becoming increasingly clear. Kazuki was not just a man. He was a force to be reckoned with, a powerful figure in a world that operated on rules she barely understood. She finished getting ready and headed out, her heart racing with anticipation. Their first meeting would set the tone for what was to come. She needed to make it clear that she wouldn't be a pawn in his game. She would be a player in her own right. When she arrived at the upscale hotel where Kazuki had taken her after the game, she hesitated for a moment before stepping through the elegant glass doors. The lobby was lavish, adorned with marble and gold, exuding an air of sophistication that felt foreign to her. She scanned the room, her gaze finally landing on Kazuki, who stood leaning against the reception desk, his silhouette sharp against the opulence surrounding him. He looked up as she approached, a flicker of surprise crossing his features before being replaced by his customary cool demeanor. "Amara," he greeted, his voice low and smooth, sending a shiver down her spine. "I was wondering when you would show up." "I had some things to think about," she replied, crossing her arms defensively. She refused to let him draw her into his world without a fight. "Just because you won me in a game doesn't mean I'm going to follow your lead." Kazuki raised an eyebrow, his lips curling into a faint smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You misunderstand. I'm not asking you to follow me. I merely want you to understand the circumstances we're in. There are dangers that come with my world, and you're now part of it." "Part of it?" she echoed incredulously. "You mean I'm a trophy, right? A prize to show off?" His expression hardened, and for a fleeting moment, she saw the raw emotion beneath the surface, the struggle of a man who had fought tooth and nail to rise to power, but had never learned to let anyone in. "You're more than just a prize, Amara. You have a strength that I admire, and I wouldn't have kept you around if I didn't see potential in you." "Potential for what?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. "To be a pawn in your dangerous game? I refuse to let you dictate my life." He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming as he leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You have no idea what you're up against. I want to protect you, but I need you to trust me. The moment you walked away from that table, you stepped into a world where every decision could mean life or death. I won't let anything happen to you, but you need to understand that you're in my territory now." The tension in the air crackled between them, electric and charged. Amara's heart raced, a mix of fear and an undeniable pull toward him. "And what if I don't want to be here?" she challenged, searching his eyes for any hint of vulnerability. Kazuki's gaze softened for a brief moment, the mask slipping just enough for her to glimpse the man beneath the hardened exterior. "Then you should leave while you can, but know that the world outside isn't as simple as you think. You're safer with me." The weight of his words settled in the air, and Amara felt an unsettling mix of emotions swirl within her. She wanted to be angry, to reject his offer of protection, but there was a part of her that recognized the truth in his statement. The world she had stepped into was dangerous, and walking away might not be an option. "I'll think about it," she finally replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "But I refuse to be a pawn. If I'm going to be part of this, I want to know how to play." Kazuki's eyes darkened with intrigue, a flicker of respect shining through. "I'll teach you, but know this. Once you're in, there's no turning back. The stakes are higher than you can imagine, and the risks are real." Amara nodded, determination settling in her gut. "I'm ready for whatever comes next, but I want to do it on my terms." As they stood there, a silent understanding began to form between them, a bond forged not just in the heat of a poker game, but in the crucible of a world where danger and desire danced on the edge of a knife. Little did they know that outside the hotel, shadows were gathering, rival factions eager to capitalize on any weakness, ready to strike at a moment's notice. The stakes were rising, and the game was far from over. As their conversation continued, the tension shifted. Amara leaned closer, curiosity piqued. "So what happens now? What's the next move in your game?" Kazuki's lips curved into a smirk, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of genuine amusement in his eyes. Now, we play by my rules. And with that, the game began anew, each moment laden with unspoken promises and hidden dangers. Amara was determined to face whatever lay ahead, ready to embrace the complexities of her new reality while discovering the truth about the man who had captured her attention and intrigue. The atmosphere in the luxurious penthouse was thick with unspoken tension as Amara and Kazuki settled into their new routine. With the initial shock of her unexpected win slowly wearing off, Amara found herself caught in a whirlpool of emotions, oscillating between fear and intrigue. The realization that she was now a prize in a high-stakes game painted her world in shades of danger she had never anticipated. Every day brought new challenges, and as Kazuki's enigmatic nature revealed itself, Amara discovered that there was much more to him than the cold exterior he projected. The power he wielded was evident in every command he issued to his men, and the respect they showed him was palpable. Yet behind those coal-black eyes lay a depth of vulnerability that intrigued her. Their first week together was a mix of guarded exchanges and subtle glances, each moment charged with unacknowledged tension. Kazuki often retreated to his private quarters, leaving Amara to navigate the luxurious yet stifling environment of the penthouse. The lavish decor, with its gold accents and plush furniture, felt like a gilded cage. She was surrounded by opulence, but her freedom was curtailed, and the weight of her new reality pressed heavily on her shoulders. As days turned into nights, Kazuki's presence became a paradox. He was both a captor and a protector. He seemed to take pleasure in watching her navigate this new world, observing her reactions with a mix of amusement and curiosity. Amara often caught him studying her, his gaze lingering longer than necessary, and each stolen glance sent shivers down her spine. The chemistry between them crackled in the air, palpable and electric, yet neither dared to acknowledge it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the city skyline, Amara found herself alone in the sprawling living room. She had taken to exploring Kazuki's collection of art, each piece telling stories of power, legacy, and ambition. As she stood before a striking painting of a dragon, its scales shimmering with vibrant colors, Kazuki entered the room, his footsteps silent against the polished marble floor. "Do you like it?" he asked, his voice low and smooth, pulling her from her reverie. Amara turned to face him, her heart racing. "It's powerful," she replied, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "It captures strength and danger beautifully." Kazuki stepped closer, his eyes narrowing slightly as he assessed her reaction. "Just like the world we inhabit, wouldn't you agree?" She nodded, feeling the weight of his gaze. "It's a dangerous game, Kazuki. I didn't sign up for this," she said, her tone imbued with defiance. His expression shifted, a flicker of something, regret, perhaps, crossing his features before he masked it with his usual stoicism. "You're here now, Amara, and there's no turning back." Her heart sank at his words, the reality of her situation hitting her like a tidal wave. She was ensnared in a web spun by the very man who had captivated her. Yet, as she looked into his eyes, she could sense a flicker of something deeper, a desire for understanding, perhaps, or a longing for connection. "Why me?" she dared to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you choose me?" Kazuki regarded her for a long moment, the silence stretching between them like a taut string ready to snap. "Maybe you remind me of what I've lost," he finally replied, his voice tinged with a vulnerability that was rare for him. "Or perhaps there's something in you that I admire, a strength that I find intriguing." Amara felt a rush of warmth at his admission, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "I'm not afraid of you, Kazuki, but I am afraid of this world." His expression softened, and for the first time she saw a glimpse of the man behind the boss, the one who had suffered, who had fought, who had survived. "Then let me show you," he said, his voice steady. "Let me guide you through it. You might find that there's more to this life than you think." With that, he extended his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental, like a bridge being forged between their two worlds. As their hands connected, a rush of electricity coursed through her, igniting a spark of connection she had yet to fully understand. The tension that had built between them over the past week seemed to crescendo, and she found herself leaning closer, drawn to him in a way she could not explain. But just as she was about to lean in further, the moment was shattered by a knock at the door. Kazuki's expression hardened, and he released her hand, stepping back to regain his composure. "Stay here," he instructed, his tone leaving no room for argument. Amara watched as he opened the door, revealing one of his trusted associates, Hiroshi. The man's expression was grim, and as Kazuki stepped into the hallway, she could hear snippets of their conversation, talk of rival factions and threats that loomed ever closer. "Keep her safe, Kazuki," Hiroshi urged, concern lacing his voice. "They're watching. They know she's with you now." Amara's heart raced at the implications of their words. The danger was real, and she was at the center of it all. She pressed her ear against the door, straining to hear more. But Kazuki's voice was low and measured, masking the urgency of the situation. As the two men continued their hushed conversation, Amara felt a surge of determination wash over her. She was no longer just a pawn in Kazuki's game. She wanted to be an active participant in her fate. Gathering her courage, she pushed the door open slightly, stepping into the hallway just as Kazuki turned to face her. "Amara," he said, surprise flickering in his eyes. "I'm not a child, Kazuki," she replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I deserve to know what's happening." The tension in the air thickened as Kazuki regarded her, a mixture of admiration and frustration crossing his features. "You're right," he conceded, his tone softening. "But this world is dangerous. I can't protect you if you don't understand the risks." Hiroshi glanced between them, sensing the shift in their dynamic. "We need to move quickly," he urged. "The rival factions won't wait." Kazuki sighed, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "Fine, but you must promise me that you'll stay close and do exactly as I say." Amara nodded, her resolve hardening. "I promise." With that, they made their way down the sleek corridor, Kazuki leading the way with a sense of purpose. Amara felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety coursing through her veins. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to step out of the shadows and confront the reality of the world she had been thrust into. As they descended the stairs, the intensity of the situation began to settle in. Kazuki's demeanor shifted, his focus laser-sharp as they approached the garage. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her, the thrill of danger mingling with her growing attraction to him. The stakes were higher than ever, and Amara was determined to prove herself. Once they reached the garage, Kazuki led her to a sleek black car, its engine purring softly as he opened the door for her. "Get in," he instructed, his tone brooking no argument. Amara slid into the plush leather seat, her heart pounding as Kazuki climbed in beside her. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and she could sense the tension simmering just beneath the surface. "Where are we going?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "To meet someone who can help us," he replied, his jaw set with determination. "But you need to trust me." "I do," she said softly, meeting his intense gaze. "I'm ready." As they sped through the city, the neon lights flickering past like a blur, Amara couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. The thrill of the unknown filled her with excitement, and with every passing moment, she felt a growing connection to Kazuki. He was no longer just the Yakuza boss. He was her ally, her protector, and perhaps something more. But as they approached a nondescript building that loomed in the distance, a sense of foreboding settled over her. The stakes were high, and the danger was palpable. Yet, despite her trepidation, Amara felt a fierce determination to stand by Kazuki's side, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. As they entered the building, the air grew heavy with tension. Kazuki led her through a series of dimly lit hallways, his presence a comforting anchor amidst the uncertainty. She could hear hushed voices and muffled laughter from behind closed doors, each sound amplifying her anxiety. Finally, they arrived at a large conference room where a group of men sat around a polished table, their expressions serious as they discussed strategies and alliances. Kazuki stepped forward, commanding attention with his mere presence. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice steady and authoritative, "we have a situation." Amara stood slightly behind him, feeling the weight of their gazes upon her. She was acutely aware of the power dynamics at play, and as Kazuki outlined the threat posed by the rival factions, she couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider in a world that was far more dangerous than she had imagined. Yet, as the meeting unfolded, Amara found herself captivated by Kazuki's commanding presence. He was articulate and confident, his every word calculated to convey strength. With each passing moment, she felt her admiration for him deepen, and the tension that had simmered between them began to take on a new dimension. Once the meeting concluded, Kazuki turned to her, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. "I am," she replied, her heart racing at the intensity of his gaze. "But I want to help. I don't want to just be a prize anymore." A flicker of surprise crossed his features, followed by a slow smile that sent warmth flooding through her. "You're braver than I thought, Amara," he said, his voice low and rich. "I admire that." "But you need to promise me one thing," she said, stepping closer. "If things get dangerous, you'll let me leave." Kazuki's expression grew serious, and he nodded. "If it ever becomes too much, I will let you go. But know this, I won't let anything happen to you. You mean more to me than you realize." Amara's breath caught in her throat at his words. The gravity of their situation loomed large, yet a flicker of hope ignited within her. Perhaps this dangerous game they were playing could lead to something deeper, something that transcended the boundaries of power and fear. With newfound determination, she took a step closer to him, feeling the heat radiating off his body. "Then let's face this together," she murmured, her voice steady. Kazuki's gaze softened, and in that moment she felt an undeniable connection, a promise that they would navigate the treacherous waters ahead side by side. The stakes were high, but together they would forge their own path through the chaos, ready to confront whatever challenges awaited them. As they left the conference room, Amara felt a sense of purpose swelling within her. She was no longer just a pawn in Kazuki's game. She was an active player, ready to embrace the complexities of their world. And with Kazuki by her side, she was prepared to face the unknown, ready to unravel the mysteries that lay ahead. Amara stood in the soft glow of the conference room, her heart racing as Kazuki's intense gaze bore into hers. The weight of their situation hung heavy in the air, a palpable tension that threatened to consume them. She had stepped into this world thinking she was merely a skilled poker player, but now she found herself entwined in the dangerous web of the Yakuza. The stakes were no longer just chips on a table. They were her very life, and the life of the man standing before her. For a moment, they remained silent, the chaos of the outside world fading away as they stood on the precipice of something monumental. Kazuki's expression softened, revealing a flicker of vulnerability beneath the cool facade he always wore. In that instant, Amara felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crack. It was as if he could see through her tough exterior, recognizing the fear and determination that swirled within her. "What do we do now?" she finally asked, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. Kazuki stepped closer, invading her personal space. The warmth radiating from him was intoxicating, and she fought the urge to lean into him. "We prepare," he replied, his voice low and commanding. "There are threats circling us, and I won't let anything happen to you." His protectiveness stirred something within her, an instinctual yearning for safety that clashed with her fierce independence. She was used to relying on no one but herself, but Kazuki's presence was difficult to ignore. "I can fight my own battles," she asserted, challenging him with a steely gaze. "I know you can," he said, a hint of admiration in his tone. "But this is different. You're a target now, and I won't have you caught in the crossfire." The tension in the room thickened, and Amara felt a mix of anger and attraction swirled within her. She appreciated his concern, but she wasn't about to let anyone dictate her fate. "I didn't choose this life, Kazuki. I was thrust into it. The least I can do is stand my ground." He studied her for a moment, and she could see the gears turning in his mind. "Then stand with me," he proposed, a slight smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Together, we can face whatever comes our way." The sincerity in his voice sent a shiver down her spine, and she knew, in that moment, they were no longer just player and prize. They were allies in a world that sought to tear them apart. "All right," she said, her voice unwavering, "but I won't be just a pawn in your game. I want to be a player." Kazuki nodded, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. "Then, let's make our next move." As they strategized, the conversations flowed effortlessly, and she found herself drawing closer to him, their shared determination forging an undeniable bond. They discussed the rival factions threatening their peace, the whispers of betrayal that lingered in the shadows, and the alliances they would need to secure. Amara's mind raced as she absorbed every detail, her instincts kicking in. She had always been a quick learner, and now, in the face of danger, she was more focused than ever. Kazuki's presence was a constant reminder of the stakes involved. He was the epitome of power and control, yet with her, he seemed to let his guard down, revealing glimpses of the man beneath the Yakuza boss exterior. She began to see the complexities of his character, the burdens he carried, the sacrifices he had made. He was not just a cold, ruthless leader. He was a man shaped by his past, driven by a desire to protect those he cared about. Days turned into weeks as they navigated the treacherous waters of the Yakuza world together. Amara found herself drawn deeper into Kazuki's life, attending meetings, observing the intricacies of power dynamics, and learning the rules of engagement. With each passing day, her admiration for him grew, yet so did her apprehension. She was falling for a man whose life was steeped in danger, and she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story than he had revealed. One evening, as they sat in Kazuki's luxurious penthouse overlooking the city, the tension between them reached a boiling point. The city lights twinkled like stars, casting a romantic glow around them, but Amara felt anything but serene. "What's your real story, Kazuki?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've shown me your world, but I want to know you, the man behind the mask." He turned to her, his dark eyes searching hers, as if weighing the consequences of his revelation. "It's not a pretty story," he warned. "I'm not afraid of the truth," she replied, her resolve unwavering. "I need to understand you if I'm going to navigate this life with you. We're in this together." Kazuki exhaled slowly. Tension edged across his face. Fine, but know that this is a part of me I rarely share. He paused, gathering his thoughts, and then began to unravel the threads of his past. I grew up in a world where power and respect were everything. My father was a Yakuza leader, and from a young age, I was groomed to take over. I witnessed things, horrors that no child should see. Betrayals, violence, loyalty bought and sold like currency. Amara listened intently, her heart aching for the boy he had once been. "And your mother?" she asked gently. Kazuki's expression darkened. She was caught in the crossfire. I lost her when I was just a teenager. That's when I learned that love is a weakness in this world. His admission hung heavy in the air, and Amara felt a surge of empathy for the man before her. But you're not your past, Kazuki. You have the power to choose differently. He looked at her, the intensity of his gaze sending shivers down her spine. You don't understand. The moment you step into this life, every decision you make is tainted by the blood of your choices. I've sacrificed too much to let anyone in. But you let me in, she countered, her voice steady. You could have kept me at arm's length, but you didn't. You chose to trust me. Kazuki's eyes softened, and for the first time, she saw the flicker of hope in them. You're different, Amara. You challenge me. You make me want to fight for something more than just power. Her heart raced at his words, the space between them charged with electricity. She could feel the unspoken tension building, a magnetic force pulling them closer. Kazuki, Before she could finish her thought, the sound of an explosion vibrated through the walls, shaking the very foundation of the building. Amara's heart dropped as she instinctively reached for Kazuki's hand, their connection grounding her amidst the chaos. "What was that?" she exclaimed, panic rising in her chest. He didn't answer, his expression hardening as he moved toward the window. The city below was engulfed in smoke and chaos, a stark reminder of the danger that lurked in their world. "Stay here," he commanded, his voice low and steady. "No, I'm going with you," she insisted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She couldn't let him face this alone. She had come too far to be sidelined now. Kazuki turned to her, a mixture of frustration and admiration in his eyes. "This isn't a game, Amara. I won't risk your safety." "I'm not afraid of danger," she replied, her voice unwavering. "I've faced my share of it already. I can handle myself." With a resigned sigh, Kazuki nodded, and together they made their way down the stairs, the sound of chaos growing louder with each step. As they reached the ground floor, they were met with a scene of utter pandemonium. Men in suits rushed past them, shouting orders as smoke billowed from the building across the street. It was clear that an all-out war was erupting. "Stay close," Kazuki instructed, his grip tightening around her hand as they navigated through the chaos. She could feel the tension radiating off him, and her heart raced in response. As they reached a safe corner, Kazuki turned to her, his expression fierce. "I need you to trust me. Stay behind me, and don't move unless I tell you to." Amara nodded, her pulse quickening as she felt the reality of their situation sink in. This was no longer just about poker and power, it was about survival. The moment she had stepped into Kazuki's world, she had become a player in a game where the stakes were life and death. Gunfire erupted in the distance, and her heart raced as Kazuki pulled her closer, shielding her with his body. "Stay down," he ordered, his voice low and urgent. They crouched behind a nearby car, the sounds of chaos echoing around them. Amara felt a surge of adrenaline as she peered around the vehicle, her instincts kicking in. She was no longer just an observer, she was a part of this world, and she had to fight for her place in it. "Kazuki, what's our next move?" she asked, her voice steady despite the panic swirling within her. He glanced at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "I didn't expect you to be so calm." "This is what I trained for," she replied, her determination shining through. "I won't back down." Kazuki's lips curved into a slight smile, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded into the background. "You truly are remarkable, Amara." Before she could respond, another explosion rocked the ground, and they were jolted back into reality. Kazuki's expression hardened once more as he assessed the situation. "We need to move. Follow my lead." They dashed from their cover, weaving through the debris and chaos as they made their way toward the source of the commotion. The tension between them crackled like electricity, and Amara's heart raced with both fear and exhilaration. She was no longer just a prize. She was an active participant in this deadly game. As they approached the scene, Amara spotted men in suits facing off against another group, the tension palpable. Kazuki's demeanor shifted, and she could sense the power surging through him. He was in his element, a force to be reckoned with. "Stay close," he whispered, a fierce determination in his eyes. "This is going to get messy." Amara nodded, her heart pounding in her chest as they stepped into the fray. She felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins, and for the first time, she understood the thrill of danger. She was no longer just an outsider, she was part of something bigger. Kazuki moved with precision, his every action calculated and deliberate. Amara followed closely, her instincts guiding her as they navigated the chaos together. Gunshots rang out, and she ducked instinctively, adrenaline flooding her senses. "Go!" Kazuki shouted, pointing toward a group of men attempting to flank them. They charged forward, a united front against the chaos that surrounded them. Amara felt the rush of empowerment surge through her, and she fought alongside him, defying the odds stacked against them. As the confrontation escalated, the bond between them solidified. They moved as one, anticipating each other's actions, relying on their shared determination to survive. In that moment, Amara realized that she had become more than just a pawn in Kazuki's game. She was a player in her own right, refusing to be sidelined in a world that sought to control her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the dust began to settle. The rival faction had retreated, and victory hung in the air, bittersweet and hard-earned. Kazuki turned to her, his expression a mix of pride and relief. "You fought brilliantly," he said, his voice low and intense. "I knew I could count on you." Amara's heart swelled at his praise, and in that moment, everything shifted. They were no longer just two people tangled in a web of danger. They were partners, allies bound by the trials they had faced together. As they made their way back to the safety of the building, Amara felt a new sense of purpose. She was no longer just a prize, she was a force to be reckoned with. The world of the Yakuza was dangerous, but with Kazuki by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they reached the conference room once more, the weight of their experience settled around them. Kazuki turned to her, his expression softening. "We did it together," he said, his voice low and sincere. Amara nodded, a smile breaking through her earlier tension. "I couldn't have done it without you." Kazuki stepped closer, the air between them charged with unspoken emotions. "You're not just my prize, Amara. You're my equal." Her heart raced at his words, a mix of anticipation and longing flooding her senses. In that moment, their connection deepened, and she knew they were on the brink of something profound. Together, they had forged a bond that transcended the chaos of their world, a bond rooted in trust, respect, and undeniable chemistry. With the night behind them and the dawn approaching, Amara felt a sense of hope blossoming within her. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was ready to face it. With Kazuki by her side, they would navigate the complexities of love and danger together, ready to embrace whatever the future held. As they stood together, the city sprawling beneath them, Amara realized that she had found something worth fighting for, a love that pulsed with life, igniting a fire within her that she had never known existed. They were no longer just players in a high-stakes game. They were partners, ready to take on the world, hand in hand. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They would face it together, and together they would conquer the chaos that surrounded them.